night. Many feared dead and houses burnt in Benue community tanker fire accident. Residents wait endlessly without emergency responders. Federal government to begin massive recruitment of soldiers to end Boko Haram insurgency and banditry. We're not agitating for secession. Restructuring is all we want, says Afenifere leader Chief Ayo Adebanjo. And train accident leaves 100 travelers injured in the Egyptian city of Cairo. We begin tonight from Benue State, where there has been a deadly fire outbreak at Oshibudu community in Agatu local government area. Although there are no exact figures on the casualties, state emergency officials say about 10 persons may have been killed from the inferno and over 50 houses and shops burnt. The incident happened after a petrol-laden tanker had brake failure, lost control, and crashed into residential homes. Efforts to contain the spread of the fire failed, as the only fire station nearby is in Otokpo local government area, which is a 1-hour, 30-minute drive from the scene of the fire. Agatu local government area is some 4 hours drive from Makurdi, the Benue State capital. Executive Secretary of the Benue State Emergency Management Agency, Dr. Emmanuel Shio, says the state governor has ordered the immediate assessment of the situation.
That tanker accident resulted to very massive destruction of over 50 houses, and many lives were lost as a result of that. The governor of Benue State, Dr. Samuel Uriah Otom, and indeed the government of Benue State is saddened as a result of that. The governor has directed me and the executive secretary of Benue State Emergency Management Agency to go and carry out a detailed assessment of the victims and the properties that have been destroyed. I'm mobilizing my office, and we are going to move to that place very early tomorrow morning. As we speak, casualty level, as I said, that over 50 houses have been burnt. Close to 10 persons, over 7 persons have been reported to have been have died as a result of that. But as I said, we are moving in to carry out a detailed assessment of that. What that means is that we are going to count the number of our houses, and we are going to come out with a more detailed account of the houses and the properties that have been burnt as a result of that.
There was another unfortunate incident in Benue State today, this time in Mpamundu community near Makurdi, where 7 members of a family were killed in an overnight raid by gunmen. 5 other victims of the attack who sustained different degrees of injury are currently receiving treatment at a medical facility in the state capital. A survivor who narrated his ordeal described the attack as unprovoked, while another eyewitness says the assailants came at about 1 in the morning. He, however, commends the swift response of security operatives, but as that by the time they arrived, the attackers had fled. From Benue State to the theater of war in Borno, where the Minister of Defense, Major General Bashir Magashi, announced that more soldiers will be recruited into the military to end the Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast. For the general, the recruitment of soldiers with professional skills and fighting equipment with strategies could root out the remnants of terrorists from their hideouts.
The Minister of Defense, Bashir Magashi, is welcomed by an army guard in company with the Chief of Defense Staff and other service chiefs on an operational visit at the Theatre Command headquarters in Maiduguri, Borno State. A meeting follows, and soon after, the Defense Minister addresses the troops of Operation Lafia Dole, as he says his visit is to motivate them.
You are doing your best, and we have recognized your best, and we will continue to improve on your standard, both in training, welfare, and equipment. Very soon, we would embark in the recruitment of other soldiers and officers so that we can improve the manpower holding of our armed forces.
Even as the minister urged the soldiers to remain concentrated on the job at hand, the troops responded in appreciation. The minister then spoke to journalists concerning the welfare of troops.
We have already directed that all their problems, constraints should be put on paper to enable us to study them and be able to come with a plan. We have studied the requirements and we are here to verify and see how best we can proceed so that we can bring this war or this insurgency to a logical conclusion in favor of the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The expectations of the troops going forward is that the federal government will address the issue of manpower shortfalls to deal with insurgency and banditry.
Staying in the northeast, a man suspected to be an informant to Boko Haram terrorists has been arrested by troops in Yobe State. The suspect, Modu Ari, is accused of giving information on the movement of troops to his terrorist collaborators. Among the fallout of Ari's activities is the attacks on troops by Boko Haram insurgents in Kamuya area of Yobe State. According to the suspect, he confessed to revealing troops' movements and position to Boko Haram insurgents. Attacks on schools by Boko Haram insurgents and bandits are most unfortunate. Those are the words of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, when he visited victims of the recent attacks in another northeast state, Adamawa. Mr. Boss Mustafa believes an attack on schools and abduction of students is an attack on the future of the next generation.
Recent attacks around the Sambisa forest has continued to take its toll on communities bordering the area. Barely 1 week ago, gunmen suspected to be Boko Haram insurgents stormed the once peaceful community of Kwapre in Hong local government area of Adamawa State to disrupt the Friday Jumat prayers. A school, 4 churches, over 70 houses and 12 shops were set ablaze. The attackers, who reportedly came in Hilux vehicles, carted away food items and abducted about 50 persons, mostly women and children, killing 11 persons in the process. It is for this reason that the SGF leads a federal government delegation to Graha to witness the distribution of relief materials to affected victims. The SGF, before proceeding to Kwapre for an on-the-spot assessment, sympathizes with victims, promising that government will do more to alleviate their plight. The district head of Dugwaba laments the devastating effect of the attack as the village is completely abandoned. But the North-East Development Commission promises to reconstruct and rehabilitate damaged structures.
Honestly, it's a great honor to the community. His coming alone has given us hope, has given us the courage to come back to our homes. Because he is here, Mr. President is here. So we believe that whatever challenges the communities are facing and whatever things that are needed to secure the community will definitely be achieved.
We will make sure that all the structures that have been destroyed have been brought back and reconstructed. So it is part of our mandate.
The Secretary to the Government of the Federation will use the opportunity to inspect ongoing federal government road projects in the community, describes the attack as a tragedy of monumental dimension.
It is a really sad situation and it's a traumatic experience, and you won't wish it for even the worst of your enemy to be uprooted from your hereditary home. and all of a sudden you have become a refugee and a displaced person and in your own community. So I believe we are going to take steps.
Although the community had requested for the establishment of a military base in the area due to its proximity to Sambisa Forest, the SGF assures that security agencies are on their toes to prevent bandits and Boko Haram elements from using it as a base to launch attacks on vulnerable communities.
Nigeria's insecurity challenges are slowly degenerating into a war going on in Afghanistan, where U.S. and allied troops are preparing to withdraw. U.S. Army veteran Major Adebayo Adeleke said this much to me a while ago during an interview. He wants Nigerian leaders to show more seriousness in maintaining security, else things would really go out of control.
The threat assessment globally showing that in terrorism, as we know it, and extremism has moved away from Southwest Asia and now has headquartered in Africa. Of course, we see what's going on in the northeastern part of Nigeria and other parts in Mali, in Cameroon, Niger, and all other areas. And so those things, if Nigeria don't push back on this, it will continue to ravage the country. With herdsmen killing and whatnot, these are just the beginnings of it. All this banditry and the use of ransom, they are using this money to actually funnel their network. If all this network are not broken and all this banditry are not pretty much sabotaged and pretty much caught right and nip in the butt at this moment, Nigeria is going to wake up one morning and realize that their country has been pretty much taken over by extremism. So this is not something that, I'm not the prophet of doom telling Nigeria that this is what's going to happen. I'm saying that if this thing is not properly taken care of, Nigeria could be actually possibly ended up like Afghanistan, whereby the extremist organization will take over the country. There's so many meetings, there's so many parts to it for it to actually take a foothold in Nigeria, but the pattern remains the same. The ammo remains the same. Banditry, kidnapping, using of ransom money to funnel weapons and to do all these kind of atrocities is the same ammo. It's just a different location and different geographical point. But the same thing, I believe the same end state is damning to happen in Nigeria if Nigeria is not properly, if these things are not taken care of. I think what Nigerian government needs to do is to form a coalition with other countries that are involved in this kind of, that they have this kind of extreme organization within their borders and start looking for ways to coordinate. I know this has been done before, but we need to invite people as well that have been part of this, that understands this concept of extremism and banditry and able to help you using the lesson learned to be able to combat it.
You can watch more of the interview on Diplomatic Channel. It airs tomorrow, Monday, at 7:30 p.m. right here on Channels Television. Staying with security matters, the People's Democratic Party is asking the Department of State Services to immediately invite the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Issa Pantami, for questioning over his earlier views on Taliban and Al-Qaeda. The party also demands that President Muhammadu Buhari sack the minister, given the sensitivity of the issue at stake. The statement by the party reads, "Our party's position is predicated on the heightening concerns in the public space and in the international arena of possible compromises by the communications minister, who has access to sensitive government documents and information. In addition to data of all individuals, including high-profile personalities in the public and private sectors, as well as the traditional and faith-based circles." The PDP also wants the DSS to investigate the allegation, which, according to the party, has created apprehension, particularly given the rise in banditry and other terrorist activities in the country. In part two, after the break, leader of Yoruba Social-Cultural Group, Afenifere, Chief Ayo Adebanjo, says they are not agitating for secession, but restructuring. Plus, we'll be joined by our in-house data analyst, Babajide Ogusonwo, to look at debt profiles of states and the revenue generation drive. Join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us to watch the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos, a reminder of our top stories. Many feared killed in Benue community tanker fire accident. Residents wait endlessly without emergency responders. Federal government to begin massive recruitment of soldiers to end Boko Haram insurgency and banditry. We're not agitating for secession. Restructuring is all we want, says Afenifere leader Chief Ayo Adebanjo. And train accident leaves over 100 travelers injured in the Egyptian capital city, Cairo. Following growing agitation and calls for self-determination in some quarters, Pan-Yoruba Socio-Political Organization Afenifere is reiterating its call for true federalism, a system it believes will help solve the perceived imbalance in the nation's political structure. Afenifere leader Chief Ayo Adebanjo, in an exclusive interview with Channels Television, says the growing agitation and calls for secession are as a result of the failure of government to restructure the country to truly address its many challenges.
They should try to change the narrative by harassing us, by saying, oh, you have the Fulani to go, your people to come back. We have not asked the Fulani to go. I must emphasize that. Both Akere and others, we have not asked the Fulani to go. We have asked the Fulani herdsmen who are raping, murdering, kidnapping our people should go. We have not asked Dangote to go. Have you asked it to go? We have not asked it to go. He's given employment. He's employing our people. Just as they are talking rubbish to things, they will ask our own people to come. How many Yorubas or Igbos are kidnapping in the north? Buhari and APC, they are just being deceitful to say they don't know what is restructuring. Restructuring was on his program in 2007 when Afenifere supported him. If he does not restructure Nigeria back to federalism, he's #1 enemy of Nigerian unity.
Okay. So,
that is what he can stand for. That was the binding thing between Afenifere and Yika, which Afenifere was an indefatigable spokesman, saying this is what we want. We don't talk of secession or self-determination. It is the delay or the refusal to send us back to federalism that is giving rise to Igbo. And I've said it. If it does not restructure quickly now, there will be more Igbo. There will be more Nnamdi Kanu. I still maintain. I don't support secession or self-determination, but I don't oppose it. I don't support it because I have invested more in Nigerian unity, more than Buhari. In 1979, I give you evidence, not the question, it's not boasting like a fool. Why I don't want secession? Why we should beg Buhari to give us federalism to keep us together? Because Nigeria will not stay in Nigeria, Yoruba land will not stay in Nigeria under this constitution. Mark it, under this constitution. If you bring my son to be a candidate under this constitution, I will oppose him.
In the meantime, the Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu says state policing in Nigeria is urgently needed in resolving some of the insecurity issues confronting the nation. The governor, in an exclusive interview with Channels Television, says governors need to have more control of the security apparatus in their territories. He said it's frustrating not being able to control the security in one state.
It's long overdue, Seun. We should make it happen. In fact, that's really one of the critical things that I believe will help us. It's been said over and again.
Does it frustrate you, like some of your colleagues who have told me that they're frustrated that they cannot take 100% charge over security at the state of affairs in their state?
Seun, is the massive frustration. It's massive. And it's very simple. You see, it's a very simple thing that we're trying to address here. We currently support the Lagos State Police Command in all spheres. Vehicles, petrol, PMS, ration allowance, all sort of encouragement. The last time, even the constabulary, we gave them 1,250 constabularies and we're paying their salary. We paid for everything, uniform, food, everything. So we're actually incurring those expenses already. So it's really not going to, have any bigger bolt on our numbers, because that's what we're doing. But it will help us once we know that they are state police. What it will do is that somebody grows up in a, you understand that area. You know where Okokomaiko is. You understand the issues around Ojokoro. You know what the problem is in Lagos Island once it's domesticated. But how do you explain when a DPO that is just settling down in Okeari police station or in Lafiaji police station or in Adinyade police station, and you change it and you bring somebody that is 7,000 kilometers away from the place? It's a very simple thing that, and the guy doesn't even know there's an emergency. You don't even know how to navigate the streets and the corners. That's the whole concept around community policing.
Politics now. The governors of the main opposition, the People's Democratic Party, want the ruling All Progressives Congress to heed the advice of Edo State Governor Godwin Obaseki on the country's monetary policies rather than attacking him. The PDP Governors Forum's comment is in reaction to comments by the Progressive Governors Forum that Governor Obaseki's position that the federal government printed 60 billion naira to support states' allocations in March did not reflect the true state of things, describing it as unfortunate and inaccurate. The PDP Governors Forum says Governor Obaseki, being an economist, is aware of all the support states have received from President Buhari in coping with the shocks that have resulted from the COVID-19 pandemic and resulting economic recession. The PDP Governors Forum faulted the position of the PGF and argued that Mr. Obaseki should not be crucified for saying the truth. The opposition governors urged the federal government to stop relying on monetary policies that will further strain the economy. And in reaction to the controversy surrounding the printing of money by the central bank, the All Progressives Congress says the Central Bank of Nigeria should be allowed to effectively perform its mandate. In a statement, the party insists central banks all over the world print money, citing the financial crisis of 2008 to 2009 and how the Reserve Bank of the U.S. printed dollars to bail out companies that were too big to fail. According to the party, there is no evidence that the Central Bank of Nigeria is inefficient in managing the monetary aspect of the Nigerian economy, adding that the development function of the CBN has resulted in various intervention funds in several sectors of the economy. National debt is the combination of money borrowed by the 36 states, the Federal Capital Territory, and the federal government. But who's doing most of the borrowing, and is revenue generation improving? Babajide Ogusowo is here tonight to share the latest insights on the ease and difficulty of loan repayment in Nigeria. Great to have you here, as always.
Good evening, Amarachi.
Good evening. So we're here to talk the economy and basically money borrowing or borrowing of money. So there are concerns, though, about quantitative easing. Some call it money printing. What are the facts, especially with the situation of debts by states and the federal government?
The most important fact is for the common man to understand exactly what is going on. And there are three ways I would like to explain this. The first is Nigeria's national debt. And by national debt, I'm talking about debts that the country, the federal government and the state owes. Is 33 trillion naira, but that's a big number that the common man doesn't understand. So what is 33 trillion naira? That is the first. In Nigeria today, it's estimated that there are 50 million families, families like you and I and those of the cameramen and those behind the scenes. 33 trillion naira is an equivalent of 800,000 naira per family. In other words, to make this simple, if every family were to share from this national debt, Amarachi, your family will have to pay back 800,000 naira, my family will have to pay back 800,000. So that is the simple way to look at it. The challenge is how many families today have even up to 800,000 worth of assets? That is the first point. The second point is there's some good news. The good news about our national debt today is most of the national debt, going by the facts from the Debt Management Office, 60% of our national debt is in local currency, Naira. Here is the bad news. The bad news is based on the facts from the Debt Management Office, as at December 2015, our national debt was 13 trillion Naira. As at December 2020, in 5 years, our national debt has moved from 13 trillion naira to 33 trillion naira. In other words, national debt has almost tripled in 5 years. That is the bad news.
So who owes more debt, the state or the government or the federal government?
The summary is the federal government owes more debt when you look at it from the domestic and external perspective. Let's look at the state of states to be able to understand the big numbers. And there are three big numbers that we need to focus on. The first big number is the domestic debt. Today, the federal government, in terms of local currency debt, owes 16 trillion naira. The states owe 4.1 trillion naira. In simple terms, most of the domestic debt, the debt that is denominated in naira, is owed by the federal government. One other way to look at it is 1 out of every 4 naira of debt is owed by the states. From the external debt perspective, that is debt in foreign currency, the evidence from the Debt Management Office shows that the federal government owes $28.6 billion. These figures were as at end of December last year. And the state governments, the 36 states, owe $4.7 billion. Well, here's the summary, and here's the third and most important point where I would like to spend a bit more time on. From the evidence we have today, only 2 states generate more internal revenue to be able than all the other states. Here's what I mean. Among all the states we have, there are only 2 states, Lagos and Ogun, whose internal revenue is more than the money they collect from the federation account. Every other state relies significantly more on going to Abuja to get money than generating internally, with the exception of Lagos and Ogun. So that is the challenge we face today. Every state, except Lagos State and Ogun State, gets more money from the federation account than they generate from within their own state revenue from taxes, road transport, and all of that. That is one of the greatest challenges we face today.
So which states then have accrued the most debt in Nigeria?
You know, if you want to look at it from the state's perspective, we'll perhaps spend all of tonight doing it. But an easier way to look at it is to look at it from the regional perspective, because regional perspective is what the politicians are interested in. Regional perspective is what a lot of talk is going on about right now. And if we look at it from the regional perspective, we look at those 2 things, domestic debt and external debt. The fact shows for the states, the southern states, I'm talking about those 17 states in the southern region of Nigeria, account for 63% of all domestic debts. It even gets worse. From the external debt perspective, the southern states have collected most of the money. They've borrowed most of the money. 66% of outstanding debt is owed by the south states. In other words, Amarachi, in Nigeria today, the rich are getting richer and the poor getting... And the reason is, you would think it should be the other way, because it's in the northern region that we have most of the poor people. It's in the northern region that we have the infrastructure deficit. So rationally, the northern region should be getting and borrowing more funds to be able to do development. But what we see today is most of our domestic and external debt really is being collected by the states from the southern region.
Would you say, that all that borrowing has reflected on growth in the states?
There's no evidence that the borrowing has reflected on growth, and that's because there are still very few states that are measuring their economic growth based on the gross domestic product. What we really have is those figures. When we talk about GDP, is really looking at it from the national perspective. There's some work that has shown some states that have started measuring their own internal growth. But here's what is important, and if we look at how much states really depend on the federal on the federation account. Let's take a look at the top 10 states that depend a lot on allocation from the federal government. And by dependency, we're looking at how much they totally earn from revenue relative to their internal generated revenue. So, for instance, in Bayelsa State, 91% of revenue from that the Bayelsa State government earned last year was from the Federation account. Here's why this top 10 is important. This top 10 shows most of the states that rely on the Federation account. And among these top 10 states, 5 of these states are in the northeastern region, which means that the northeastern region right now is the most sensitive when it comes to social and income inequality. In the final analysis, let's remember whenever a man is in love or is in debt, it is the other person that often has the advantage. And so we need to look at how much debt we're accumulating and clearly to understand that it is not in our advantage for us to use debt for purposes that are not generating a lot of benefit. Going forward, we need to do more cost-benefit analysis as we acquire more debts.
Wish we had enough time to talk about this, but Babajide, always a pleasure having you on the News at 10.
The pleasure is all mine.
Breaking down the figures in plain man's terms. And still ahead on the News at 10, NDLEA intensifies clampdown on drug traffickers. 2 suspects excrete 191 pellets of heroin and cocaine in Lagos. Stay with us. Welcome back to the News at 10. With Nigeria's inflation rate now at 18.17%, according to the National Bureau of Statistics, the country needs to focus on consistency in policy formulation and implementation to bring it down. That's the view of global economist and member of the Presidential Economic Advisory Council, Dr. Iyabo Masha. Dr. Masha told Channels Television's Ladi Akredulale on our current affairs program, Newsnight, that contributory factors to the high inflation rate include insecurity, significant wastage of food items, as well as absence of production incentives.
We do know that the northern region is the food basket of the country, but with the security challenges and disruption of movement of goods between the north and the south, that's one of the reasons why there's this push on prices. The other reason is also the limited incentives for agricultural production. So 40% of the goods produced in the farms do not get to the markets. They are basically thrown away. And why? Because there are no extension services, no cold storage, transportation, and all of that. So those are what we call the more of the supply side push on inflation. And as the harvesting season comes up, rainy season and all of that, we would most likely see a decline in prices.
That will bring
in food prices.
Okay.
But then there's still the non-food part of inflation. I think overall, monetary policy would help to have a more stable price level, since that is one of the most important indicators of the health of an economy.
You can watch the full interview with Dr. Masha on Newsnight. It airs tomorrow, Monday, April 19th, 2021 at 9 p.m. right here on Channels Television. To crime and criminality, 2 suspected drug traffickers have been arrested by operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, with a total of 191 pellets of heroin and cocaine. Mr. Chukwudi Destiny was intercepted at the Lagos airport on April 10th and was placed under excretion observation, after which he excreted 92 pellets of heroin with a total weight of 1.300 kilograms. Also on April 12th, operatives made a seizure of 11.550 kilograms of heroin concealed in cornflakes cartons, leading to the arrest of a Congolese, Kayembe Masebi. After his arrest, Masebi mentioned another person who was meant to receive the parcel from him, who was also arrested. 4 clearing agents are in custody in connection to the seizure. Another trafficker, Ezekiel Chibuzo, who arrived in Lagos from Brazil on board Qatar Airlines, was also arrested for drug ingestion. He has so far excreted 99 wraps of cocaine. These arrests come barely 2 weeks after Spain-bound trafficker Okonkwo Chimezie Henry excreted 113 wraps of cocaine in Lagos. Meanwhile, officers at export shed of the airport have also seized 822.950 kilograms of cat leaves heading to the UK and to the United States. After about 9 months, the federal government has lifted the ban on issuance and registration of new SIMs from April 19th. It's after the industry tactics showed that telcos lost over 4.2 million subscribers in the month of January alone. It follows an earlier loss of about 3.3 million subscribers after the ban was placed in December 2020. While Nigerians heave a sigh of relief, it is mandatory that national identification number verification is done and linked to every SIM as stated in the revised National Digital Identity Policy for SIM card registration.
Every SIM must be connected to a National Identification Number, NIN. This is the policy even as new SIMs can now be acquired. A lot has been said about the biometric verification process being slower than anticipated, owing largely to the non-adherence of many previous SIM biometric capture processes to the NIMC standards. Subsequently, capture centers have been created outside the National Identity Management Centers, and this has eliminated some, but not all the hurdles.
I linked only one. I have 3 lines.
I have a 9-to-5 job and a personal business I run. So if it's something someone can do online, it will be easy, to make life easy for people.
Government still has the job of convincing some Nigerians of the need of getting the NIN and subsequently linking them with their SIM.
Even the state that is free, but it's not that free. I've got mine, but after 3 years, and the SD card has even expired. So, what's the need?
Whatever you want to get in Nigeria, you suffer. It's uncalled for.
While dealing with insecurity seems to be top on the motivation of the government to enforce the policy, there are other benefits which the process holds.
Remember, there was a case of trying to target social support for the most vulnerable people in society. If we had unique identifiers, it would have been easy or easier for governments to identify who needed what and where they were, and then track and follow up. That's one simple practical example of what a unique identifier could do, the benefits. The other is, of course, now we're beginning to vaccinate populations. That's another simple thing. If you have a unique identifier, then you know who has received either the first shot or what type of vaccine they've received. So the issue is there are immense benefits to having, improved identification systems.
As the government hopes to achieve a synchronized database, Nigerians expect that the process be further simplified to achieve a seamless transition.
Huggies diaper, a big player that has been in the Nigerian market since 2012, has continued to show its care for the comfort of babies. It's now rewarded customers with different laudable prices from the just concluded Huggies Happy Home Bonanza. The general manager of Kimberly-Clark, Vani Malik, says the bonanza is a way of supporting nursing parents during the COVID-19 pandemic and make them independent.
Kimberly-Clark, makers of one of the leading diaper brands, Huggies, is rewarding its loyal customers who have taken part in the Huggies Happy Home Bonanza with different categories of cash, vouchers, a brand new car and apartment. The lucky winners are here at the Maryland Mall, submitting necessary details about themselves before receiving their gifts. Then comes the moment. One after the other, they receive their cash prizes.
Huge congratulations.
This brand new luxury SUV is also presented out to one family.
Congratulations, that's a presentation of the key.
At first, we never knew it was that real, and just bought it and scratched the card. But we say a very big thank you to Huggies, and we pray that the company will be making more sales than the way it is.
Presenting the key to the house very shortly, very fast as well.
The best is saved for last. Another winner gets a 3-bedroom duplex at Meridian Luxury Park Estate, Awoyaya, Lekki.
Huggies made me a house owner, not only anywhere in Nigeria, but in Lagos. Huggies made me a landlord. Thank you, Huggies.
The managers of Kimberly Clark say the initiative is a way of caring for their customers despite the COVID-19 pandemic.
Today, right here in Lagos, we awarded a brand new car and this beautiful house to 2 different families. We are very, very happy to support them in their journey, and we are very proud of the way the promo has turned out.
How better to help them recover from such the challenge that COVID-19 delivered to Nigeria than to provide an opportunity for them to win substantial amounts of money, potentially a brand new car, and even as we stay here today, a brand new house.
Huggies Happy Home Bonanza rewarded 6 of its customers with 1 million naira each, 15 supported with 200,000 naira, 30 got 100,000, 300 entries won 25,000 naira gift vouchers, and over 60 entries were gifted with airtime.
3 young Nigerians, a Pakistani and a Rwandan, have emerged with us at the Global Youth Storytelling Award, a youth initiative to combat neglected tropical diseases ravaging the globe. The virtual event, which saw the emergence of 15 finalists across digital, video, audio, written word categories, spotlights creative approach in combating NTDs with jurors selected from all walks of life, including the chairman of Channels Media Group, Dr. John Momo, who announced scholarship for the top 3 winners to the prestigious Channels Academy.
The World Health Organization highlights neglected tropical diseases, NTDs, as a diverse group of 20 conditions of parasitic, bacterial, viral, fungal, and non-communicable origin, which are found in several countries in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, especially in tropical areas where people do not have access to clean water and safe ways to dispose of human waste. Experts say over 1.5 billion people are affected by the neglected tropical diseases, which are common among the poor, a physical representation of social exclusion and vulnerability, causing devastating health, economic, and social problems.
The Power of Storytelling Global Youth Festival Awards ceremony.
Perhaps it's why the Global Youth Festival 2021 is focusing on uniting to combat NTDs by exploring the power of storytelling. At this virtual Global Youth Storytelling Award, the organizers are looking for the most compelling narrative which spotlights the challenges posed by the NTDs and the way forward. With over 400 entries across digital, audio, written word and visual categories from 39 countries around the world, 15 finalists made the cut.
We really appreciate what young people have actually done in order to submit these works. A lot of research has gone into this. You've spent hours and hours researching neglected tropical diseases.
Felix is covered with dry, scaly skin lesions.
For their creative approach in translating complex medical information to simple, relatable facts for their audience, 3 young Nigerians, a Rwandan and a Pakistani emerged winners in 4 broad categories with cash prize of $2,500 each.
You are the first prize winner. You've won $2,500. You won!
The jurors from the competition drawn from all walks of life, including Commissioner for Education, Science, Technology and Innovation, African Union, Professor Sarah Anyang-Agbo, Chairman, Channels Media Group, Dr. John Momo, among others, were on hand to provide necessary perspective and insight.
I love their style, their narrative style. I love the way they manipulated the static ideology in order to bring out the dominant ideology, which is under the thematic of the different causes, impacts, consequences, and manners of which to combat neglected tropical diseases in our society.
What really impressed us the most was the ability of these young people to translate complex medical information and messaging through mediums that are easily understandable to the general public, such as music, literature, poetry, visual art, and video.
For the chairman of Channels Media Group, Dr. John Momo, the media platform is a veritable tool to shine the light on neglected issues and population using innovation and creativity, a vision he says Channels Television is committed to. He also announced scholarship for the top 3 winners from the competition to the prestigious Channels Academy.
We encourage young people to speak out on issues that will help create a great future for them using relevant creative forms to achieve their aims. We are committed to offering the top 3 winners at the festival an opportunity to train the Channels Academy, our media training institute for journalists and allied professionals. The training would afford the winners the chance to be trained by seasoned documentary and storytelling specialists on how to transform their written body of work into a documentary format.
Neglected tropical diseases such as river blindness, leprosy, elephantiasis, guinea worm, human African trypanosomiasis, commonly referred to as sleeping sickness, among the long list of neglected tropical diseases, do not enjoy sufficient progress to eliminate NTDs, a clear picture of lack of attention, and the development advocates such as these young global citizens are fighting to change one story at a time. Jeffrey Uzongo, Channels Television News.
Is a performance done by the National Theatre in collaboration with other thespians. RTV Tonight shows you some highlights of the festival, which hopes to inspire unity in the country.
It's a trip down memory lane for the guests who moved to the National Gallery in Lagos to enjoy this pictorial display of the country's leadership, which is a constant for those who are regulars here.
The essence of the show is actually to key visual arts component into the Festival of Unity that has been organized by the National Theatre, because we believe that no festival is complete without visual arts.
But there's more to this collection, and it's revealed by other works of art during the exhibition aspect of the Festival of Unity.
In 2015, the foundation, which I represent as well, documented the national collection, and we documented over 1,000 works, 1,000 artworks, not talking about photographs, just artworks, sculptures, paintings. And we've been looking for a way to display or show this to the public. Yes, there's a public display of works, but there are so many people who know about, just so many people who know about the national collection. So we thought this would be a historic and a really fun way of giving people a peek into the national collection, which is the name.
It took months of planning to get here, but the art team did not want to disappoint, but show works that emphasize that unity theme.
When the news at 10 returns, train accident leaves over 100 travelers injured in the Egyptian city of Cairo. However, we'll have that story in a minute, as at least 100 people were injured today when 4 train carriages derailed in Egypt's Columbia province north of Cairo. More than 50 ambulances rushed to the site of the crash and moved the injured to 3 hospitals in the province. Reports of several people killed in the accident have yet to be confirmed, and officials have not made any statement nor responded to requests for comment. The train had been heading from Cairo to the Nile Delta city of Mansoura and derailed at 1:54 p.m. local time at about 40 kilometers north of Cairo. The cause of the accident is being investigated. The derailing is the latest of several recent railway crashes. In Egypt, at least 20 people were killed and nearly 200 were injured in March when 2 trains collided near Tata, about 440 kilometers south of Cairo. Police in Wisconsin have confirmed 3 people were killed, 2 more injured during an overnight shooting at a tavern in Kenosha. Sheriff David Beth said the shooter appeared to have targeted his victims and that the incident seemed to have originated with a disturbance at the establishment and did not appear to be a random act. The suspect is reportedly on the loose, but local residents are safe. UK health officials are investigating whether a new Indian COVID-19 strain spreads more easily and evades vaccines. Although there is not enough data to classify it as a variant of concern, Dr. Susan Hopkins of Public Health England says some cases have been found in the UK that were not linked to travel, with their origin now being investigated. More than 70 cases have been identified in England and in Scotland. Here's more of the situation in other countries in our global update. The Indian capital, New Delhi, has recorded over 25,500 coronavirus cases in a 24-hour period, with about 1 in 3 people tested returning a positive result. The city's chief minister has called on the government to provide more hospital beds to tackle the crisis. In a related development, the city government says it has informed Prime Minister Narendra Modi's federal administration about the dire need for beds and oxygen, and beds are now being set up in schools. Germany has held an official Memorial Day to commemorate the nearly 800,000 people who have lost their lives to the coronavirus pandemic. Early on Sunday, Chancellor Angela Merkel and President Frank-Walter Steinmeier, as well as relatives of coronavirus victims, attended a morning mass in the Kaiser Wilhelm Memorial Church, a Berlin landmark dedicated to peace and reconciliation. The official ceremony at the Konzerthaus, a concert hall in central Berlin, was limited to only very few people due to coronavirus restrictions. It was televised, however, on public channels.
Australia is in no hurry to open those borders.
The Australian government says it is in no hurry to reopen its international borders and risk the country's nearly coronavirus-free life. The country closed its borders to all non-citizens and non-residents in March last year and has been permitting only limited international arrivals in recent months, mainly its citizens returning from abroad. The number of coronavirus cases in the United States has surpassed 31.62 million, with a death toll exceeding 566,000, according to the Center for Systems Science and Engineering at Johns Hopkins University. The Nigeria Women's Football League Premiership Super 6 to determine the champion for the 2020-2021 season will kick off tomorrow at the Dipodino Stadium in Ijebu-Ode, Ogun State. At the draw ceremony conducted earlier today, Ijebu-Ode, Edo Queens and Delta Queens will kick off the playoff at 2 p.m. Immediately after the opening match, Bayelsa Queens will take on Sunshine Queens, while Rivers Angels will face Lagos-based side FC Robo at 4 p.m. Both games will be played simultaneously. The eventual winner, based on total points amassed in the 6-team competition, will be crowned league champions and Nigeria's representative to the maiden CAF Women Champions League, scheduled for May in Morocco. Nigeria's Kelechi Iheanacho's fine form continued as he fired the winner to book Leicester a first FA Cup final appearance in 52 years after a 1-0 semi-final success over Southampton. After a poor first half where neither side created any openings of note, Iheanacho scored his 10th goal in his last 7 games in all competitions to break the deadlock 10 minutes after the break, the first goal Saints have conceded in the FA Cup this season. They win quite comfortably in the end and have a chance to win a first-ever FA Cup when they face Chelsea in the final in May. And the main news again, many people were feared killed. Several houses razed today in Oshibudu community of Agatu local government area of Benue State after a petrol tanker lost control and crashed into residential homes. Also today, the leader of the Yoruba socio-cultural group, Afenifere, Chief Ayo Adebanjo, said the agitation of the Yoruba people is not for secession. All they want is restructuring of the current federal system of government. That is the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani.